Joining us now to discuss markets even further is Gareth Soloway, verified investing crypto, chief market strategist, and master trader. Welcome, Gareth.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Of course, Gareth. So, any air or credence to this illiquidity thesis I touched on a little bit? Is that part of what's driving Bitcoin's price?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a supply and demand situation, right? So you have many people that are just kind of holding in for a longer period of time now, and you also have a lot of people that are coming into the Bitcoin markets, like you mentioned, because of the banking crisis. So there's a lack of supply, and that's driving price up. Now, we are into some big resistance here. The level right around this 30,000 point is the pivot low from the bull market of 2021. So it acts as a very psychological indicator or resistance level for Bitcoin. So that's the big level to watch right now. If it can get there, Bitcoin, if it gets through there, Bitcoin may have some big legs.
So is the implication there, so Bitcoin is struggling to break that psychological barrier, right? Because of that level from the previous bull market, right? Is that the implication?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So on a technical basis, that's pure technicals right there. So you have this level that people remember. It was this very pivotal point. So when we had broken it to the downside, that's where you got that final flush from 30,000 down to about 15,700. So now as we come back up, that works as a psychological level where people are like, oh, this should be a significant level. I'm a little nervous about this level, and it creates sellers there. So again, you have to get those sellers to be exhausted ultimately for them to sell and buyers to take those coins. And if that happens and it can get above 30,000, then you get the next leg to the breakout.
So are these sellers that you're talking about, these tired holders, are these the same holders from the bull market, or are these different holders? Are they the same holders who round tripped up and down? Is that the implication there?
Yeah, so that's the fascinating thing about it, is that a lot of times what happens is, number one, you have people that bought in at that level. They wrote it up to 69,000. Then they came back down and they said, oh, it's going to hold this 30,000 level. When it broke, they were kind of caught off guard. In addition, when we came down kind of in the 2022 period to that 30,000 level, we had a period where we went sideways, right? There was this long consolidation. What happens in consolidation is you have buyers meeting sellers. And so there's a lot of people that are buying in thinking, oh, this was the low from 2021. It should hold. This is where the price is going to go up. When it collapses through that, they're underwater. And so when price comes back to that level, they're finally made whole. They get back their money that they started with. A lot of people psychologically will say, oh, I'm back to my break even on my portfolio. Let me unload it here. And that's what creates the resistance.
Gotcha. So, Gareth, do you think that Bitcoin cares about the Binance CFTC news, or is it kind of just a non-event?
I think there's always a level of caring. I think it speaks to the more macro environment for Bitcoin. So, like for instance, the banking crisis, it was a short-term positive, but I'm a believer that it's a long-term positive because it shows the relevancy of why we need Bitcoin. These other little stories, I mean, they play small roles, but I think it's a bigger macro environment where it kind of makes the case or makes the lack of case for the Bitcoin long-term play.
So besides banks going under, what other macro thing are you looking at as a driver for price going up or price going down?
So in terms of price going down, my biggest concern is the macro economy, right? So I'm pricing in a recession in the U.S. economy, maybe a global recession in 2023, the second half. My fear for Bitcoin, and this is going to be the big struggle, is that if the asset markets, meaning the stock market, starts dropping because earnings are going down because people are not spending the money that they were, and you have a drop, let's say, of the S&P of 25% more, can Bitcoin withstand that selling pressure, or does it bleed into crypto? And that's the biggest fear for me. On the bullish side, to be honest, my biggest bull case is for Bitcoin's regulation to finally be unveiled, for crypto regulation. Once we get regulation, there's a strict set of rules that institutional money can follow. And once they have a game plan, I mean, same thing for me. I do dabble in crypto, but I'm not going to put in a ton of money without knowing what the government's going to impose on me. So once we know the game plan, what the rules are, then I think it brings in a lot of new money from the institutional side.
Gareth, I want to push back a little bit on your bear scenario where the price of Bitcoin may be going down. You talked about Bitcoin as if it was a risk-on asset, right? As if stocks start bleeding, if any risky asset starts bleeding, Bitcoin might go down. But do you not think that there is credence to the Bitcoin being a risk-off asset, or do you think that it will continue to act as a risk-on asset as it has in the past 2 years or so?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. We've seen glimpses of it being a risk off asset where it actually goes up, like during the banking crisis. So I think I've seen that throughout the last year or two. There's been these glimpses of it. Although if you look at the majority price action in Bitcoin, like in 2022, the stock market was coming down, Bitcoin was coming down. So I think it's slowly maturing into that asset. I'm just not 100% in belief that it's fully matured yet. Remember, we think about it, right? It's basically a 14-year-old. So you still have a very volatile nature of a 14-year-old. It needs to mature into an adult, and then it can take on that digital gold.
Yeah, I don't mean to put you on the spot. So it sounds like you're short Bitcoin and are shorting into this rally.
Correct. Yes. So right now I'm playing a little bit very small, right around this 28.4, 28.5 level on the short side. I plan to add up to 30,000 and change, right? If it gets above 30 and establishes it, just like we discussed, that would be a breakout. I would look to cover my short and then potentially flip long at that price.
Gotcha, Gareth. Anything else you want to add before we wrap?
I think just
any
overall
alpha for us?
Yeah, so for me, it's right now you have Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are leading the pack. If you compared them to the other alts like Solana, Avalanche, Polygon, those are still way off their near-term highs. So this is a very much a bull drive by the banking crisis, where you see money flowing into the best quality assets out there, being Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm curious if the alts do have a secondary run. Sometimes they run after the Bitcoin and Ethereum moves. For the most part, basically we pull back. I have a major buy level right around 25,000. So a retrace to 25, there's major support there. And then below that, you're looking at around that 18 to 19,000 support level. So right now I'm a trader of crypto, even though I'm a long-term believer. I think we're still in this kind of, figuring out itself phase. But again, you got to be nimble in this market until it's a full-blown bull again.
Understood, Gareth. Well, this show is all about Bitcoin, so I'm going to tell you Bitcoin is king and Bitcoin dominance leads the market. So
absolutely.
Leave you with that. Anyway, thank you, Gareth, for joining us today.
Thank you.
That was Gareth Soloway, Verified Investing Crypto's chief market strategist, talking Bitcoin markets.